Chapter 2399, The Heaven's Will. Published by Divine.Tao Library. Translator, Salavan and Godbrandy. Translation checker, Pew Pew Lasergun. Editor and proofreader, Leo of Zion Mountain and Dale Ligerkeys. Yang Kai had been there for only a few months, yet in this short period, he obtained the Sea King shuttle and gave Bing Yun all these source crystals to recover her strength. It was almost as if he'd come here just to save her. Perhaps it was really the heaven's will. Bing Yun held the space ring tightly, and after recovering from her initial shock, she asked, "Is it really okay for you to give me so many source crystals? How about I take only half of these?" Before she could finish, Yang Kai waved his hand and said with a smile, "Senior, don't worry. I'm not short of source crystals. If it was another third-order Tao Source Realm cultivator, it'd be impossible for them to produce 10 million high-rank source crystals all at once. After all, that was equivalent to 100 billion low-rank source crystals if converted." However, Yang Kai was different as he had plenty of source crystals. When he defeated Yao Chang Jun, he obtained a large amount of wealth, which increased even further after he dealt with Sang De. As such, parting with 10 million high-rank source crystals was something he could bear. Hearing his words, Bing Yun no longer rejected his offer, simply nodding and saying, "Give me 5 days. We can set out at that time. Moreover, we have to discuss how we're going to leave the island carefully." She wanted to leave Clear Sky Island immediately, but she knew she had to act carefully to not make a scene. What's more, she definitely couldn't leave together with Yang Kai. If Chi Ri got wind of it, he'd try to stop them by any means necessary. "Good. In that case, I'll take this time to make some preparations." Yang Kai nodded. "Senior, how many sets of materials have you collected for the 100 Revolutions Emperor Yuan pill? I can refine some for you just in case." Bing Yun was startled. "You're capable of refining the 100 Revolutions Emperor Yuan pill? It's an Emperor-grade spirit pill." Yang Kai let out an embarrassed laugh. "Senior, forgive my earlier deception. Junior isn't a Tao Source-grade mid-rank alchemist, but an Emperor-grade alchemist." Back then, he had no idea about her identity or character or why she was looking for an alchemist, so he didn't reveal the full extent of his abilities, but now that they'd gotten to know each other, Yang Kai no longer felt the need to hide this detail. "An Emperor-grade alchemist?" Bing Yun's eyes brightened as she asked in amazement, "Are you telling the truth?" Yang Kai was very young, but his cultivation was already quite high. Bing Yun had totally not expected that he was an Emperor-grade alchemist on top of that. Even if one took the entire star boundary into account, there weren't many Emperor-grade alchemists. They were rarer than Emperor Realm Masters and commanded far more respect. Yang Kai's status as an Emperor-grade alchemist would be enough to cause all the top-tier sects to fight to the death over him. While looking at Yang Kai, a tinge of regret flashed in Bing Yun's eyes. "Is something the matter?" Yang Kai read her mood and couldn't understand why she felt regretful. Bing Yun pursed her lips and smiled. "If you were a woman, I would have accepted you as a disciple, making you inherit this queen's full legacy. Unfortunately, Ice Heart Valley never accepts male disciples." Yang Kai scratched his head. "Junior is moved by your kindness." Bing Yun could talk so openly because she didn't consider him an outsider. After all, the two came from the same starfield, which was a shared bond that was impossible to break. The materials for the 100 Revolutions Emperor Yuan pill aren't easy to find. After searching for many years, this queen only has 10 sets. I'll give them all to you. Bing Yun took out some precious herbs and handed them to Yang Kai. These herbs were once her best hope at leaving this place, but after acquiring all these source crystals from Yang Kai, she no longer had much use for them. Whether or not the pill could be refined, it had little to no impact on the next phase of the plan. The reason Yang Kai decided to give it a try was just for extra insurance in case something unexpected happened. After leaving Bing Yun's chambers, Yang Kai immediately started to refine the 100 Revolutions Emperor Yuan pill. He hadn't refined many Emperor-grade spirit pills, but practice makes perfect. After wasting 2 sets of materials, he finally got the hang of it. 3 days later, 8 of the 10 sets of materials had been refined successfully. The first few pills were of low quality and were barely considered a success, but the ones Yang Kai refined towards the end were pretty good, with a few high-grade 100 Revolutions Emperor Yuan pills among them. There weren't many pills in total, but it was more than enough. There were 2 days left until their appointment, so Yang Kai didn't waste time and headed toward the cave mansion area after urging Lu Xian Yun not to leave Ice Heart Pavilion. Arriving in front of an average-looking cave mansion, Yang Kai announced his arrival, and after a while, the barrier opened and Lin Yin Chin came out and waved at Yang Kai, "Come in." Yang Kai nodded and followed after her. This cave mansion was almost the same as the one he'd rented before. Whether it was the number of rooms or the size, it was basically identical. Ling Yin-chin offered him a cup of spirit tea and asked, "What happened a few days ago?" "There was a fight in your cave mansion, and when I went to check the place, everything was a mess. Moreover, you and Lu Xianyun were nowhere to be seen." Hearing that Ling Yin-chin had gone to check on him, Yang Kai's heart warmed and he felt that coming here had been the correct choice. "Someone troublesome came looking for me, so I escaped," Yang Kai grinned, not explaining further. Ling Yin-chin furrowed her brows. "I've heard people say that an Emperor Realm Master took action that day. Was the person troubling you really an emperor?" Then, her expression changed slightly, and she exclaimed, "Don't tell me that it was the Profound Cloud Pavilion's Pavilion Master." She thought that the death of the Profound Cloud Pavilion's people at sea was exposed and her face paled a bit. "No, it was someone else," Yang Kai shook his head. "Anyways, it's water under the bridge now, so you don't need to worry. The reason I came this time is that I wanted to ask you something." "How can I help you this time?" She didn't even ask what it was about and just directly asked how she could help. Truly heartwarming. Yang Kai's expression turned serious. "Senior Sister Ling, do you want to leave the solitary void-sealed world?" "Leave this place?" Ling Yin-chin was startled and a longing expression flashed across her eyes, but soon, she smiled bitterly and shook her head. Which one of the several million inhabitants of Clear Sky City doesn't want to leave? However, even Sir Island Lord is trapped here. How could it be so easy to leave? Just reply to my question. Do you want to leave? Yang Kai said seriously. Let's say that the thought has crossed my mind. Then, she seemingly thought of something and looked at Yang Kai in surprise. Why are you asking me this question? What do you want to do? Yang Kai said seriously, if I were to tell you that I know how to leave this place, would you believe me? You do? She looked at Yang Kai in disbelief. She was different from the others, as she was the first person that Yang Kai and Lu Xianyun had met after coming to the solitary void-sealed world. Therefore, she knew their background a bit, as well as that they hadn't been here for long. If someone who had come here not too long ago told you that they knew how to leave the place, it would be hard to believe them. If it was so easy to leave, those powerful masters wouldn't have been trapped here for so many years. After a short moment, Ling Yin-chin furrowed her brows and asked, did someone deceive you? This island is full of swindlers, and they frequently trick people into heading out to sea with such lies only to afterwards commit all sorts of outrageous crimes. You should be careful. Yang Kai failed to stifle his laughter. No one has deceived me. I am 80% certain that I can leave this place. 80%? Ling Yin-chin's tender body trembled and her eyes bulged wide. She didn't know much about Yang Kai as they'd only met a few times, so she didn't dare to believe him right off the bat. Yang Kai continued, Junior Sister and I haven't been in this place for long, but you, Brother Zhao, and the others helped us quite a bit, so I was thinking of taking you along when we leave. Regardless of the high-rank spirit purifying array working or not, the fact that Ling Yin-chin was willing to lend it to him was enough to show her good character. And, even if the array was ultimately damaged, she didn't blame Yang Kai. As such, he wanted to take her and her crew along if possible. Big Sister Ling, it's normal for you to be skeptical. I also wasn't expecting that you'd believe me right away, but if you're willing to put your trust in me, I can assure you that you won't be disappointed. Still, regardless of your choice, Junior Sister and I will be leaving in 2 days. Yang Kai finished his sentence and stood up. He'd only come here to invite her. As for what she decided to do in the end, that was up to her. After all, it wasn't like he could forcefully drag her away in order to repay a debt. Ling Yin-chin didn't even notice when Yang Kai left. Hearing his words, she'd fallen in a dilemma. Her intuition told her that Yang Kai wasn't lying, and that he really knew how to leave this place. Still, they hadn't known each other for long, and she had no idea from where he'd gotten his information or if the method to leave was even viable. If she blindly believed his words, she'd be gambling with her crew's lives. The pressure she felt was enormous. In the end, she decided that it was best to listen to what the others had to say, so she grabbed her communication artifact and asked her crew to gather. The remaining 2 days flew by. Early in the morning, Yang Kai arrived at the dock with several women. Among them were Lu Xianyun, Fan Xin, and the other disciples of Ice Heart Pavilion. Bing Yun hadn't accepted many disciples here on Clear Sky Island, and most of them were poor people with nowhere to go. She took pity on him and decided to give them shelter in Ice Heart Pavilion. For this reason, the girls' cultivations differed a lot, with Yang Kai being the strongest in the group. Alchemist Yang, honored master, said that you'll be in charge of this trip. What do we do now? Fan Xin asked anxiously. Last night, Bing Yoon told her to gather all of her junior sisters and pack up everything in Ice Heart Pavilion as they would go out to sea the next day, with Yang Kai being in charge of this trip.